The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Martha, who is the CEO and co-founder of Schema App with us. Hey, Martha, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. And congratulations on celebrating the 9th birthday of Schema App. Kind of getting to the 9th year, closing in on a decade is no mean task, yeah?
No, it's super exciting. I joke that it's been like there's been ups and downs, right? Google keeps us on our
Obviously.
toes, as you know, being an SEO and working in digital marketing. But yeah, it's looking like a great year, especially with everything going on with AI search.
Absolutely. And talking about Google, when my team comes up with, kind of and tells me something, hey, you know what? We figured this out. I'm like, Google is smarter than us. If we could, they're probably one step ahead of us. So yeah, perfect. Yeah. Give us more, Martha. Let's get to know the human behind the mic. You have been with Cisco for quite some time, then kind of migrating to digital marketing, the scheme of things. Give us more about your journey and also about Schema App. What do you guys specialize in? What is that you do different from the other players out there? And we'll take it from there.
Sure. So I got a technical degree. So I have a degree in applied math and mechanical engineering. And when I graduated, I really wanted to go on an adventure. And it was around the 2000s when being in the Valley was sort of a cool thing to do. So I was part of the Canadian brain drain and moved myself, or actually Cisco moved me down to San Jose to join them. And it was an exciting time. I joined when Cisco was sort of doing enterprise voice over IP. I know my kids now, of course we talk over the internet, right? Of course we, use all these tools, but back in 2000, that was sort of a cool new thing. And so I actually started my journey at Cisco supporting voice over IP, becoming an expert in that, and then really became like an entrepreneur at Cisco. So I had a lot of fun actually creating organizations, fundraising internally to get funding. And then I landed sort of managing Cisco's online support tools. So the tools people use globally in order to solve problems online. So that was sort of my first introduction to kind of like digital tools and how people were doing discovery. It's where I first learned how Google crawled websites and helped people discover things. And it was really sort of this really fun time, especially being in an enterprise, to kind of learn how to get things done, right? How to partner with IT and how to innovate and sort of introduce new capabilities that would just like delight customers. But in 2014 or 2013, I had my first child, Ruth, and in Canada, we take a year off. And so at that time, my husband was actually starting to be an entrepreneur, and he is a semantic technologist. So he was exploring different products that he could bring out, in order to kind of solve problems using semantic technology, since that was his expertise. And so sort of during that time off, I was sort of journeying with him, kind of like trying to figure out, like, he wasn't making any money. We weren't like, no one was buying anything. And I was like, oh, I'm good at like getting people to buy into ideas. And so sort of got a first taste of kind of trying to get people to buy what Mark was building at that time. It wasn't Schema App yet. And then I didn't go back to Cisco. So I was having so much fun sort of learning something new, figuring it out. And while people sort of, I would say, like, glamorize entrepreneurship, it was sort of a time where, we both left enterprise jobs and we had no money, right? Like, we just literally were, we kind of found ourselves as an agency, because like to make money, we can do these tasks for you. So we were doing online kind of product recommendations. And it was really not until kind of 2015, the fall of 2015, where we reflected and we're like, you know what, we didn't quit our jobs like to become an agency and to do services for people. We quit our jobs to build a product company. And so at that point, we were like, we're really excited about schema.org and structured data. And no joke, like the name Schema App was just like Mark. I think I was out for dinner and I came back, he's like, I bought a domain, like, we're going to call it Schema App. And lo and behold, the company kind of came to be. And, we say it's our 9th birthday because it wasn't until 2016 until we had really a product for agencies and people who want to generate schema markup and be able to kind of manage it over time. But it was really done on a page by page basis. So people knew it as Schema App Pro. That was sort of where we started. And then because we both came from enterprise, we were really hungry to solve that next problem, which is like how you do it at scale. So our business today, we do schema markup at scale, semantically, where it results in a content knowledge graph. And we basically pair our amazing platform with customer success to help enterprises not just deploy schema markup, but manage it and get results. And those results aren't just in SEO right now. There's other uses sort of across the enterprise that bring a lot of value.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. And you guys have scaled it up to an enterprise grade solution now. So congratulations for that. So, I mean, 9 years, quite a journey, right? You must have seen a lot of Google updates, right? But with Google's AI overviews and entity-based indexing evolving fast, how do you see schema markup, evolving from SEO tactic to like a full-scale marketing strategy?
Yeah, and I think this kind of comes back to sort of like how schema.org was written. So I'll start there and then sort of like play out sort of how I've seen it play out over the last 2 years. So, the reason we specialized in schema markup is schema.org was written as a vocabulary, written to sort of define relationships and really sort of to build a knowledge graph. And much as like most SEOs don't know that when they look at it, semantic technologists such as my co-founder Mark, we saw that they were trying to define relationships. And schema.org was written in 2011, right, by Google, Yahoo, Bing, Yandex. And the reason I kind of tie it back to that knowledge graph is that knowledge graph technology has been around for a long time. And, there's a ton of research that says large language models work beautifully with knowledge graphs because large language models are amazing at inferencing, but they make mistakes, right? They get hallucinations when they can't inference off, I'll say, really structured data that has context. And so I think the part that's really exciting in this new world is like the data architecture world of knowledge graphs and kind of LLMs, that world that, again, we've always structured data and built knowledge graphs because that was sort of our technology roots, is kind of merging with search. And so your question around like, how do we get from tactics to strategy, that merging of search with large language models and knowledge graph is what we're living in today. And so while people historically have thought about using schema markup just to get a rich result, that's not sufficient because the search experience is now this like interactive play. Now, Google still gives rich results and you still get a higher click-through rate from it. But what you actually need to be sort of producing and inserting into, I'll say, the machines, because it's not just Google anymore, right? It's ChatGPT, it's Perplexity, it's all these things, is a data layer that has this context. And that data layer is the knowledge graph. So it's not just about optimizing one page, but connecting the dots between them all.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks, kind of detailing that out for us. So from that perspective, what should every serious brand be doing right now to build a content knowledge graph that actually impacts search and AI visibility with, a lot of search is being put under the scanner from AI perspective now, and people are thinking, SEO has less influence with each day.
Well, I think I'll say like a data point that we can have confidence that schema markup is something that will control is that like even over the last 2 weeks, so we're recording this on May 23rd, over the last couple of days even, Microsoft has said use structured data in order to help our Gen AI experiences. Google just published documentation yesterday or earlier this week on May 21st saying in order to show up in generative AI, here are some things to do. They talk about content, but guess what? They're also talking about structured data, new capabilities like Index Now basically is like for products, you can get better product visibility if you use Index Now and structured data. So I would say like there's been strong reinforcement in the last 2 weeks to say we can have confidence that structured data is that sort of input in order to kind of put it in and kind of standardize on like this space. I think the other piece is like you were asking like, well, what can SEOs do? So I think like if you think about how you think about structured data, there's some steps or sort of evaluation you can do in order to say like, am I doing tactical structured data or am I actually, I'll say building that content knowledge graph? And it's quite simple. So when you're doing your schema markup, you're optimizing a page. The key is that you're defining relationships between that page and other things. So what I mean is, for example, if let's say it's a product page, you're describing like what are sort of related products or who is the manufacturer or sort of, maybe there's blogs that are talking about that product. That blog is referencing that product. So you're literally connecting entities. I like to talk talk about are connecting, sort of defining the relationships between things. That's one way to kind of infer or create that content knowledge graph. The other is to use external sources to define things really clearly. So let's say, we work with a lot of healthcare organizations. So I'm a physician and I'm trying to be really clear about what kind of physician I am, using external data sources and defining you're an oncologist or you specialize in this type of medicine by using references to Google's knowledge graph or Wikidata within the schema markup. So when you define these relationships and do that sort of across everything, so it's not just like on one page, but every page, then that's actually when you're building that content knowledge graph. And that's what becomes this powerful data layer. So you can look at your schema markup. You can see if you're, again, building those connections. If you know schema markup and you're looking at it, let's say in the validator, you'll see that's like indented, means that you're defining a relationship. That's really where it becomes more powerful and where you're giving the data to the machines in order to do that accurate inferencing.
Why do you think kind of businesses get it wrong with the schema implementations? I mean, they obviously know what they're doing. They can structure the data. Why do you think they kind of get it wrong?
I think they're often, again, just thinking about, like, I'll say the value over the last 10 years, which was getting a rich result. So they're just thinking like, how do I get this page to get that visible kind of change in the SERP, right? To get that rich result, that rich snippet.
Yeah.
They're not, and they're not necessarily thinking also about, like, I don't know, we just did a webinar yesterday on an Ask Me Anything, and we talked a lot about ad IDs. Okay, well, ad IDs are sort of defining a node in a knowledge graph, and you're being like very specific that this is a unique entity. Most developers aren't thinking like that, right? They're like, oh, I just need to map this JSON LD to get this rich result. So I think a lot of it in this new world of AI, it is the nuances and like some of the more advanced capabilities that you need to know about in order to do structured data that's really going to yield it. I think the other is like SEOs often in large enterprise, there's just one SEO, right? Or there's a very small team. And for them to be experts in everything is unreasonable, right? And so some of the stuff is in the weeds. And so again, if you only have 15 minutes every month to think about your schema markup strategy, that's not sufficient to kind of know those things that really need to get done. And that's, again, like part of our value prop at Schema App is that like we're in this every day, all day. We're experts in building the data layer in a way that resonates with these sort of more advanced tech or large language models. And that's sort of I'll say the problem we solved, so that our clients don't have to worry about that.
All right. Now let's say, I've done it right. How do you measure the effectiveness of, correct schema implementations? What are the metrics that you would ideally look at?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. This is like one of my favorites. So the metrics are evolving. So that's like one thing. So one is I love looking at increased click-through rate from rich results. So in a world of zero clicks with AIOs, we are still seeing, I'll say, like consistent higher click-through rate when you achieve a rich result. So that would be the way I measure the value of the rich result and sort of doing that specific kind of part of the schema markup strategy. The second thing that we would look at is around non-branded queries. So in 2023, when we saw Google sort of moving more to kind of large language model focused search, we were like, well, if they're using the knowledge graph in order to do targeting and in order to kind of infer more accurately, then we should actually see more accurate queries mapping for non-branded queries when you do this entity linking with definition. So using Google's knowledge graph, Wikidata, Wikipedia, and we just saw exactly that. So one of the other measures is non-branded query performance after you do schema markup for kind of those related branded queries. So things such as if you were to clarify cities and regions or towns, we have seen like near me queries actually for non-branded start performing better after that. It could be, let's say, like I used the physician example. So it's like on a specific topic area, perhaps around a specific service line within healthcare, we see those perform. So non-branded queries is a great way. And then the most recent one in the SEO space is we are seeing an increase in AIO citations. In fact, Bright Edge produced an article earlier this month saying that when you do schema markup, and specifically entity linking or entity SEO, you're 3 times more likely to get more citations in AIO. And so we are seeing using whether that be like a Bright Edge type of platform or in Conductor, after we do schema markup and after we do that disambiguation, we are seeing a clear increase in sort of AIO citations. So those would be, again, sort of like some of the SEO metrics. Some of the other metrics that we kind of do around value is like, can we reuse the data for AI initiatives internally? So solve problems around AI and data readiness readiness. And then content teams are like the new one, which is like, can we actually help them identify gaps in their topic mapping in order to deliver higher quality content to drive then more quality traffic to their site based on those terms that they're trying to perform for. So those last two are a little less quantitative, but ask me in 6 months and we'll probably have some good measures for how we measure those as well.
For sure, for sure. We'll have a more detailed one on this. Martha, this has been a great conversation. And one thing I would like to really ask you is, I speak with a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of business owners, founders who have kind of started from scratch, in the sense that getting into entrepreneurship really, really early in their career, right? And you're someone who has kind of gone through the grind in terms of working with corporates for quite some time before you started your own business, your own journey, right? So, would really want to understand your take in terms of, how you look at it, getting some years of experience under the belt and then kind of starting it out versus just, starting out, your entrepreneurship career really early. So do you feel there are really any benefits of kind of understanding the game, then getting into it? Give us your take on this.
Oh, I love this question. So I think the benefit of doing it after having, 14 years, 15 years experience is especially because we now sell to enterprise. I understand the nuances of like getting decisions made in those kind of businesses and stakeholder management and procurement and budgeting and politics, frankly, that I wouldn't have if I had sort of started right after school. I think the hard part about becoming an entrepreneur later in your career is get pretty used to making money, right? And as I said earlier, like we went for 5 years with like very little money because we haven't taken investment and, we were really trying to be customer funded. And so you have to be willing to do that grind, right? That you have to like be okay that they're still bootstrapped. Yeah, we're still customer funded. Yeah. And so which is why I think like often people do VC funding because it's just like it's harder to kind of make that switch. However, there are days that I think like it is risky. And so I think if I could ask like 20, 21, 22-year-old Martha who decided to move to the Valley and join a corporation, what it would have been less risky at that age to like go and make no money for a little bit, live in my parents' basement a little bit longer. So I think if you have the right idea and you have that right piece, I think it is harder though. Like you don't have some of the discipline and sort of wisdom from just like how to get things done, how to lead teams, how to hire people. Like I got taught a lot by being within the Cisco engine about how you partner, how you collaborate, how you hire great people. Because I was in senior management when I left. And so that training, I joked with you and as we were prepping, like, I wish I had done sales training at Cisco. Like that would have been so amazing. So for people maybe thinking about being an entrepreneur, go get a sales job somewhere at a big company, go through their amazing training, learn how to sell. I luckily, like my father's a salesman, so I came from a family of sales. So I had great mentorship from the get-go. I had sold internally. I had to fundraise to build organizations within Cisco. So I knew how to kind of get executives bought in and do metrics and planning, et cetera, do strategy planning. But I didn't get the sales training. So I wish I had that. I think that would have even helped me more.
Really nice. You know what? When you've gone, with some work experience, like you said, obviously, you get kind of understanding of the industry, whichever industry you're working, the wisdom, the experience, all kind of helps, The flip side of it is, you have got more to lose because,
Absolutely.
You have been there, done it for 15 years, you'd have reached a certain stage in your career and kind of letting it go versus a 21-year-old, nothing to lose. You go, you fail, it's okay. Maybe at the age of 35, you might not feel the same. I feel might not be okay. Whatever said and done, whatever books we read about entrepreneurship and all, but still, when you really, really have something to lose, that is where making decisions like this, really, really hats off to you and Mark to kind of, make that switch. And now
I have to be brave. I have to tell you though, my parents thought I was crazy. Like I was a high potential at Cisco. Like my next move was to become a director. Like I had line of sight to like, how I could grow my career to be a vice president at Cisco, which was actually like my goal was to become a general manager at Cisco. Like that was my career aspiration. But then it changed. And now I'm a general manager, right? I'm a CEO. I run a business here. So I achieved that same goal just through a different path. But yeah, it did take courage and a little bit of, I say like grit to kind of go through those first 5 years. And a lot of people don't make it, right? So like the odds are against you as an entrepreneur. We got lucky and a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can completely imagine. Kudos to you, man. Seriously. I mean, this has been a real achievement, Martha. Congratulations once again to you, Mark, and the entire team on your 9th birthday. Wishing you loads of success. And yeah, you are an inspiration to all our listeners today. I'm sure there has been a lot of insights that you have shared. It was a great session. Thank you once again for taking out time to do this with us. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Amazing. I don't, one of the sayings we love is, so one is it's the team, right? It's not just me and Mark, but like we have an amazing team, but also, don't waste a really good sort of, Google's good at throwing us algorithm changes and so forth. So there's all these crises, like don't waste the opportunity to have a great crisis. I think when Google got rid of FAQs and how-to schema with 3 days notice in 2023, that was a great crisis that basically forced us to become a knowledge graph company. And that's, I would say, what's been super, super fun. So thanks for having me today.
Lovely. Thank you, Martha. And before we let you go, for our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Sure. So you can check out Schema App at www.schemaapp.com. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and add a note, sort of how you heard about me and what you want to talk about.
Lovely, Martha. Thank you once again. Yeah, this has been a great session. Cheers, man. Cheers.
All right. Take care.